The image of Lord Beerus physically raising his arms to protect a biological bug from Earth was a visual paradox that broke the minds of the paralyzed Saiyans. Cell stood behind the trembling deity, his hand resting comfortably on the purple feline shoulder. He had achieved the ultimate checkmate. But Cell, blinded by the absolute arrogance of his own perfection, fundamentally misunderstood the psychology of a cornered god. He assumed Beerus was a rational being who valued his own life above all else. He was wrong. The god of destruction was done being a hostage, and he had one final, desperate play that did not care about the rules of survival. The sheer, venomous humiliation radiating from the physical form of the deity began to warp the very fabric of the ruined Earth. Cell was laughing softly, fully assuming that he had established total and permanent control over the absolute peak of the cosmic hierarchy. In his perfectly calculated view of the universe, any living organism would naturally choose servitude over complete biological erasure. But Beerus had existed for millions of years as the undisputed apex predator of the cosmos. The aura surrounding the purple felines slowly began to change, shifting from a defensive posture into a violently boiling cauldron of apocalyptic rage. The Hakai energy began to aggressively bleed out of his physical body, scorching the air and turning the shattered earth beneath his feet into a smooth, glowing purple glass. Beerus realized in that suffocating moment that living for eternity as a subservient slave to an overgrown insect was a fate infinitely worse than death. He made the conscious, terrifying decision to detonate his own divine soul. He fully intended to unleash a localized suicide bomb of pure destruction energy that would completely atomize himself, the paralyzed Saiyans, the entire solar system, and the smirking biological anomaly standing right behind him. But before the furious deity could unleash the final wave of self-destructive erasure energy, the silent observer standing on the periphery of the battlefield finally made his move. Whis watched the catastrophic escalation with an unblinking, terrifyingly calm gaze. Angels are fundamentally forbidden from engaging in mortal combat or actively altering the fate of the universe. If Whis raised his hand to strike Cell, the angelic laws dictated that Whis would be instantly erased from existence by the Grand Priest. But an angel is perfectly permitted to act as an attendant, to offer counsel, and to transport his assigned lord. Whis dropped his facade of perfect silence and spoke directly to the perfect god, his voice carrying a smooth, manipulative elegance. He appealed directly to the massive, volatile ego burning inside the monster. Whis stated that a true supreme deity does not need to hide behind a hostage on a ruined dirt rock. The angel informed Cell that if he truly wished to claim absolute authority over the multiverse, he needed to claim the ultimate prize. Whis revealed the existence of the Super Dragon Balls, the planet-sized orbs of limitless wish-granting magic. He calmly explained that his sister Vados had recently gathered all 7 spheres in the neutral zone between universes 6 and 7, assembling them on the nameless planet for an upcoming tournament. Whis bowed his head slightly, offering to transport the new cosmic king to the spheres as a formal gesture of submission. The biological cocktail inside Cell proved to be his ultimate psychological downfall. He possessed the tactical genius of Piccolo, but it was completely drowned out by the overwhelming, greedy narcissism of Frieza and the arrogant pride of his Saiyan genetics. Cell could not resist the temptation of absolute, unfiltered cosmic magic. He dropped his hand from the shoulder of the god of destruction and accepted the tribute. However, Cell was not a fool. He refused to let Whis handle the transportation. Utilizing the divine memories of the absorbed Supreme Kai, Cell activated the Kai technique. This supreme teleportation magic required no key lock and allowed the user to instantly bypass any universal boundary. With a blinding flash of corrupted rose and violet light, Cell instantly warped himself, his divine hostage, the angelic attendant, and the 2 paralyzed Saiyans directly to the edge of Universe 6. They materialized on the barren, rocky surface of the nameless planet. There was a breathable atmosphere, a dark, star-filled sky, and dominating the entire horizon were the 7 massive, glowing orange spheres. They were the size of actual planets, humming with an ancient, undeniable magic that made the blood in Vegeta and Goku's veins run cold. Cell looked up at the magnificent constellation of limitless power, his unblinking eyes wide with absolute greed. He stepped forward, leaving Beerus behind, completely captivated by the ultimate prize. He turned to the angelic attendant and ordered Whis to summon the dragon, fully intending to wish for the permanent biological submission of the entire multiverse. Whis did not hesitate. He raised his glowing blue staff and channeled his divine voice. He spoke the ancient, bizarre incantation in the language of the gods, a dialect completely incomprehensible to the bio-android. The fabric of the universe violently shuddered as the ancient magic activated. A blinding, pure golden light erupted from the 7 planet-sized spheres, completely swallowing the surrounding galaxies in an endless ocean of warm illumination. The massive, golden form of Super Shenron physically manifested from the light. The creature was so impossibly large that it effortlessly dwarfed entire solar systems, its magnificent serpentine body weaving seamlessly through the very fabric of the universe itself. The dragon focused its massive, glowing red eyes downward, waiting in absolute terrifying silence for the final command. Cell stood in awe, momentarily mesmerized by the sheer, incomprehensible scale of the golden dragon. He opened his mouth to declare his perfect multiversal wish, but Whis was not Cell's attendant. Whis belonged exclusively to the god of destruction. The angel did not look at the monster. He turned his calm, neutral gaze directly toward Lord Beerus. Beerus, standing completely still on the rocky surface, issued his absolute final command as the destroyer of Universe 7. He ordered the angel to sever the life link. Whis instantly translated the command into the divine tongue, his voice echoing across the vacuum of space. The glowing red eyes of the golden dragon flashed with an overriding cosmic authority that instantly superseded all physical and magical laws governing the multiverse. The wish was violently granted. The terrifying, previously invisible tether connecting the corrupted biology of the bio-android to the waiting deity was dragged into the physical realm for a single second. It briefly appeared as a thick, glowing string of purple and rose light, deeply pulsing with stolen creator energy. Then, with a catastrophic sound that echoed exactly like a shattered glass window across the planet, the cosmic thread violently snapped. The physical and psychological impact on the arrogant monster was instantaneous. Cell violently convulsed, a sickening, wet scream tearing from his throat. He could actually feel the serene creator ki being physically ripped from his deeply complex cellular structure, aggressively purged from his biology by the overwhelming magic of the dragon. The beautiful, elegant rose and violet aura that loudly signified his untouchable divine status flickered rapidly and died completely, instantly replaced by the harsh, violent golden light of his original perfection. He was completely stripped of his cosmic immunity and his infinite leverage. He was abruptly and violently reduced back to exactly what he was originally designed to be. He was just a monster, a biological freak stitched together from stolen DNA, suddenly left completely exposed and vulnerable. Before Cell could even begin to intellectually process the devastating loss of his impenetrable shield, the absolute, terrifying silence of the nameless planet was broken by the sound of footsteps. Lord Beerus was absolutely no longer trembling. The deeply humiliating posture of a captive slave was completely gone. He stood perfectly upright, his thin, purple frame radiating a cold, impossibly heavy gravity that made the surrounding stars seem to physically dim in total submission to his presence. His feline eyes were glowing brightly with the unrestrained, psychotic, and apocalyptic fury of millions of years of pent-up violence finally unleashed. Beerus looked at the golden bio-android strictly as a disgusting biological stain that had profoundly and unforgivably offended the natural order of his universe. Beerus did not offer a grand, villainous monologue to his victim. He did not speak a single word of traditional dialogue. He simply raised his right hand slowly, extending a single, glowing purple finger, and pointed it directly at the space between the terrified eyes of the abomination. The bio-android froze completely, his stolen biological instincts suddenly screaming in absolute, paralyzing terror. He desperately tried to move his limbs, tried to aggressively expand his pink tail, tried to frantically access the chaotic magic of the Magian flesh he still possessed, but his physical body completely refused to obey. He was securely locked in place by the sheer, overwhelming pressure of absolute destruction energy radiating from the finger of the god. Beerus locked his glowing eyes with the trembling abomination, entirely devoid of mercy, and whispered the single terrifying word of absolute divine execution. Hakai, a small, blindingly bright sphere of pure purple energy, violently erupted from the tip of the deity's finger, instantly crossing the microscopic distance and completely engulfing the bio-android in a swirling maelstrom of absolute erasure. Cell screamed loudly, a raw, hideous, pathetic sound of pure agony that violently tore through the eternal silence of the void. The infinite, chaotic Majin regeneration frantically tried to save his life, desperately attempting to rebuild his rapidly melting flesh, as the aggressive destruction energy violently tore his complex cellular structure apart at the subatomic level. But the ancient divine magic of the destroyer was absolute. It did not merely burn his skin. It completely unspooled the very conceptual foundation of his existence, aggressively wiping his biology, his stolen memories, and his artificial soul directly from the tapestry of time itself. Cell watched in horror as his own perfect hands slowly dissolved into floating purple dust, finally feeling the suffocating, cold grip of true mortal terror. The horrific screaming slowly faded into a choked gargle, and then he was simply gone. Not a single microscopic atom remained. The terrifying biological anomaly was completely and permanently erased from the multiverse. Lord Beerus slowly lowered his right hand, the glowing purple light finally fading from his tired eyes. He turned his back on the empty space, looked at the angelic attendant floating quietly beside him, and simply stated that he was incredibly tired and he wanted to go home and sleep.